My title this morning, Creating Hope, suggests that hope is not just a personality trait or a way of seeing things, but something you can make, something within your own powers and abilities. When I say make, though, I don't mean something like a machine that comes with parts to assemble and directions to follow. I mean something more like a garden. None of us can make a flower bloom with our own powers. Yet we may design, cultivate, and nurture a garden in a way that creates more or less favorable conditions, favorable environment for the plants in the garden. Likewise, we may cultivate hope, create the conditions that nurture hope, so that we may, in the words of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, act that each tomorrow finds us farther than we are today. We create hope first by fixing our hopes on things we can change, then by using the innate, inherent resources each of us possesses to see how we can make our lives better. If this suggests there is some work to creating hope, that it is more than a state of mind, you would be right. The great 19th century Unitarian minister James Freeman Clarke distinguished genuine hope from false hope this way. The hope which deceives is that which promises us future good with no cooperation of ours. We think to have the end without using the means. We trust in luck, in fortune, in genius, not in thought and work. The true hope, on the contrary, is one which is willing to think, wait, and act. End quote. Or to go back to Longfellow, let us then be up and doing, with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. To say that we have choices, though, is not the same thing as saying we can control the outcome. As I often say, we are powerless over other people, places, and things. We can't make anyone love us, or forgive us, or give us a job. Thus, genuine hope only may be directed at ourselves. Yet that represents far more power than most of us ever imagine. There's nothing wrong with valuing the respect of one's peers. Yet if someone lived for the approval of one person or to win a particular award, we might call that person's hope too narrow or limited. The greater hope would be to find work that nurtures our spirit and fulfills the very human, even universal desire for meaning in what we do. There is nothing wrong with wanting a partner in life, yet if someone pinned all his or her hopes for happiness on the affections of another who might not be available or even attracted to them, we might say that person's hope was more of a fantasy. The greater hope for such a person would be for the courage to take risks and the strength to endure the grief that comes with love, because all love comes with grief, one way or another. The late Reverend Forrest Church wrote, "Love is grief's advance party." There is nothing wrong with a desire to live a long, happy, and vigorous life. Yet if someone hoped to become immortal, we would all agree that that was an unrealistic expectation, to say the least. Faced then with a life-threatening disease, I humbly suggest that the greater hope is not for a last-minute cure, but for the courage to face the difficult road ahead, for the willingness to forgive outstanding grievances, and for the audacity to receive love without the hope of ever being able to return it. Those are great hopes, and they are all within your grasp. Now, we're way past optimism. Hopes like those I've described here require more than a sunny disposition or simple positive psychology. They require faith in one's self, one's abilities, that starts with an affirmation of human worth and capacity. Permit me to contrast two early views of humankind. The first is from the Calvinist minister Jonathan Edwards, writing in the middle of the 18th century, 1741 to be exact. The God that holds you over the pit of hell, much as one holds a spider or some loathsome insect over the fire, abhors you and is dreadfully provoked. His wrath towards you burns like fire. He looks upon you as worthy of nothing else but to be cast into the fire." End quote. Now, not quite 100 years later, 1838, the Unitarian minister, William Ellery Channing, wrote this: "I do and I must reverence human nature. I know how it is despised, how it has been oppressed, how civil and religious establishments have for ages conspired to crush it. I shut my eyes on none of its weaknesses. But injured, trampled on, and scorned as our nature is, I still turn to it with intense sympathy and strong hope. I honor it for its struggles against oppression, for its growth and progress under the weight of so many chains and prejudices, for its achievements in science and art. I thank God that my own lot is bound up with that of the human race." Well, which church would you rather attend? The faith that nurtures hope must have, at a minimum, something like our first principle, which affirms the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Now, of course, to be inherent means that it's an essential attribute of something. Put another way, if you removed that attribute, it would fundamentally change the identity of the thing itself. Arguably, a radio is not an inherent part of a car, because if you took out the radio, it would still be a car. But if you took out the engine, though, you'd have something that might look like a car and be able to coast downhill, but lacking the capacity to propel itself with mechanical power, you really could not fairly say it was any longer a car. That's what it means to be inherent. Our faith movement is grounded in the belief that you have within you the inherent capacity to nurture and grow the qualities necessary to have hope. Courage, willingness to ask for help, perspective to see things differently, patience, love, forgiveness, the ability to sustain yourself through grief, to set boundaries, to assert your identity. These are all qualities I humbly suggest separate the human species from other species. Take them away, and you can diminish them through illness, oppression, or by simple neglect. And you may have someone who looks like a human being, but who in reality is just the shell of a person, like the body of a car without an engine. William Ellery Channing also wrote, "The great hope of society is in individual character." One of his contemporaries, the Universalist John Murray, wrote, and this is probably apocryphal, probably didn't say it, but it's a great quote. I'm going to go with it anyway. "You may possess only a small light, but uncover it, let it shine, use it in order to bring more light and understanding to the hearts and minds of men and women. Give them not hell, but hope and courage." What a great rebuttal to Jonathan Edwards. Emerson wrote, "Trust yourself." And also, a man should learn to detect and watch that gleam of light which flashes across his mind from within, more than the luster of the firmament of bards and sages. Nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of your own mind. All these statements, taken from our Unitarian and Universalist traditions, are rooted in the belief that humans possess the capacity to improve themselves, to act as Longfellow encourages us, that each tomorrow finds us farther than today. Some dismiss hope as simply living in the future. Some might say, I hope things get better, but what am I to do in the meantime? Well, I respectfully suggest that this is just wishful thinking, as in I wish things were different, but there's nothing I can do about it. That's not really hope at all. The hope I am describing today is not just that things might be better in the future, but that we can act now to make it so. When you risk being vulnerable with someone, you are practicing hope. You are acting now that you might have a better tomorrow. When you forgive another, you are practicing hope, because you are working to make your life better without the guarantee that your effort will restore a relationship. When you set boundaries with another person, you have no assurance the other will respond, yet you can fairly hope that such boundaries will make your life better. What marks these examples of hope is not the possible outcomes, that someone might return the love or accept our forgiveness or honor our boundaries, is the present feeling of possibility that is the essence of hope. Such possibilities do not diminish in the least your value today. As I often say, you are worthy just as you are, and you can be better. It is even more empowering to know that when life inevitably dampens our spirits, seems to set us back, that we have within our very selves everything we need to restore us to spiritual health and well-being, such as hope. Sometimes we need a little help finding it. Sometimes we're so close to ourselves we can't see our own abilities, and we need the encouragement of another to see all that we possibly can do and be. We strive to be such a place here. As a community, we too have our shortcomings, but also as a community, we may hope to act so that each day finds us as a community of faith farther than we are today. That is a great hope indeed, and one well within our grasp. May it always be so, and blessed be.